The governor is very strong about it. He says the democracy is at risk. And so it's an important issue. I'm fascinated that you think that the courts probably will not go the governor's way, but allow the president to do this. And that will create a situation in the United States very different from anything we have seen before. It seems to me that some of your other areas of expertise have been sort of dramatically demonstrated or have been dramatically coming together here in Los Angeles. And let me start with Governor Newsom, who is claiming that President Trump has violated state authority, the governor's authority, by federalizing 4,000 members of the California National Guard. There is video of those officers detaining undocumented suspects for arrest, apparently by immigration and customs officials. So what is Newsom's case? Where does his authority come from?
Yeah, so I think most people who are listening, we have a sense that there's the Posse Comitatus Act, that we in general don't have the military acting as a police force in the United States, that's just not what the military is supposed to be doing. But there is statutory exceptions to that. So one of those exceptions is there's a statutory provision, which is the one that President Trump used here, which allows the president to call in the National Guard under various circumstances, including repelling rebellion or a threat of rebellion. And what Governor Newsom is claiming is that under that statutory provision, the last part of it says that the president is supposed to do it through an order of the governor. And Governor Newsom says the order never came from me, that wasn't done through me. Therefore, it's a violation of that statutory provision. If I had to take a guess, I would say that that argument is probably not going to succeed in court. And the reason that that's my guess is because although President Trump used that statute in this instance, there's another one that he could have used, which is the Insurrection Act. And listeners might have heard about that too, because President Trump brought it up a lot on the campaign trail. He was very excited to use the Insurrection Act. He said he was going to use it if he was elected again. And what that law allows the president to do is, again, similar language about stopping rebellions, to call in the military to repel. If the president thinks there's an emergency, then the president can call in the military to quell that emergency. And under the Insurrection Act, it doesn't mention having to go through a governor. And the Supreme Court has decided cases that basically say it's the president's call whether there is an emergency or not, that the court isn't going to second guess that. So the Insurrection Act clearly gives the president the authority to do what he's doing right now, legal authority. The fact he used this other law, the one that allows him to call in the National Guard, I just think it's unlikely a court is going to say, well, because you used this one and you didn't talk to Governor Newsom, it's not okay. I think they'll probably just say that language at the end of that statute is more of a kind of ministerial function, that just, the order gets processed through the governor, but it's not that the governor has to give permission, because it does seem like when Congress created these laws, they were designed to give presidents the authority to deal with unexpected emergencies. And, we've been very lucky in America's history because we've had presidents who have respected the fact that you don't want the military on the streets of America. So these, they haven't been used. These statutes have been used really rarely in America's history. But that's because we've had prudent presidents. We're in a different time right now, and President Trump has long indicated that he wants robust use of these exceptions. So I wasn't surprised that he did this personally. I actually wrote about this when he was campaigning, because he talked about wanting to use this authority. And I think it'll get upheld in the courts, even if for some reason the governor succeeds in saying under this provision of the law that was actually invoked makes it not okay, the president could do the exact same thing under the Insurrection Act.
Hi, I'm Janice, and I am co-founder of Jews United for Democracy and Justice, as well as the America at a Crossroads weekly virtual town hall series. If you like this video, don't just watch. Head over to our website where you can subscribe for early access to new programs, see our upcoming schedules, and participate in our weekly live streams. You can also connect directly with our guests live on Zoom. Head over to JewsUnitedForDemocracy.org. Thanks for watching.
Let's go back to this question, though, that the governor is raising, and the issue of the military being used for police activities in the United States. That goes back to George Washington when he founded the Army of the United States, which is going to be celebrated for its 250th birthday later this week. He said that the military should not be involved in politics, should not be involved in enforcing the law, civil law. And you mentioned the Posse Comitatus Act. I don't know that everybody is familiar with that. Tell us about it and why it gives him the governor authority.
Yeah, so that law states that we don't have the military engaged in policing in America. So, that's the general rule. I think the way to think about it is that our country was founded on the principle that, we don't want a standing army. We have a Third Amendment that says, you can't be required to quarter soldiers. We don't want a standing army. We don't want what we fought a rebellion against in Britain, which is to have military type rule and that kind of police state. And the Posse Comitatus Act essentially puts that into law to say that the military will not serve domestic policing functions unless, authorized by Congress. And so that unless part is where these two laws that I mentioned before come in, because Congress did at the same time, almost from the beginning pass the insurrection. We have this Insurrection Act that allows the president to call in the military if it's necessary because there's an emergency. And then there's this other law that was invoked here in Los Angeles that allows the president to call in the National Guard. And I should say, by the way, when President Trump called into effect this current law, he didn't just limit it to Los Angeles. His executive order actually authorizes National Guard troops to be deployed anywhere in the United States. So even though right now we're seeing them in Los Angeles, they actually could be deployed anywhere where the president decides there's similarly a need to protect some kind of federal interest.
There have been suggestions that there might be military called up in other places. I don't know. I wouldn't attempt at this point to try to list them. And I don't know how far people have gone in suggesting that this might happen. But the governor is very strong about it. He says the democracy is at risk. And so it's an important issue. I'm fascinated that you think that the courts probably will not go the governor's way, but allow the president to do this. And that will create a situation in the United States very different from anything we have seen before.